kidneys always bruised. Your daddy's girl, it became you. In the front seat, you pulled me close, kissed my lips, it tasted like home. Flashes of crosswords and chamomile, the years pass like a Ferris wheel. Tiny fractures in the fall, the days we live so much more. Got a little place near the beach, we watch the sailboats out at sea. And we ride along the Palisades, love is just a summer day. If you hold too tight, it starts to fade. Let it go, then it floats away. In time, will you remember me? For a second, we had everything. How far away summer, searching by to summer, aimless and upward.
Hello. Oh, hello. That makes me so happy that I was in your top 5. I've had a couple of people tell me that I was like, I made like their top 5 for Twitch, and I'm just like, I'm not gonna cry. I have coffee. Happy Thursday, everyone. Hello. Yeah, 'cause I should be your number 1, you fucking raggedy bitch. Also, it seems that Twitch has changed where they put the stream information, and it's now above the video in browser. Foul. I hate it. I hate it so much. Joel, don't poke the bear. It's okay. I wouldn't be able to do that much right now anyway. My arms really hurt from our workout yesterday. It's still below. It was below for me when I was in Chrome, but I switched to Firefox when I'm streaming, and it's on top, and I don't like it. It makes me a little neurotic. Anyway, happy Thursday. I hope your week has been going good. We're almost to Christmas break. I hope that you guys have days off for Christmas and the holidays. I do. I have a whole week off. I have a paid week off. It's really nice. So I'll probably be doing some morning streams instead from like the day after Christmas to New Year's, which I'm excited about because I like doing like morning streams because it means like I can just like chill out at night. Although I have been doing a very good job of kind of taking time for myself lately, which I am notoriously bad at. But we're going to be finishing off. Relax. The dog, like, was about to cause a commotion. We're going to be finishing off reading through the Dragon Age TTRPG. We are basically just going to kind of poke around in character creation and kind of everything else that is left over after we've gone through the GM's rulebook as well as the player's rulebook the last couple of weeks. I'm kind of, I was debating whether or not I wanted to like build a character on stream. Sir Oatmeal, where are you? He's underneath. He's on the doggy bed. I wish I need to set up another camera. So I have my camera that I usually use if I'm using, if I'm doing like actual physical books for this. But I had taken that because that used to be the moose cam. That used to be the cam for May for when she laid on her bed. But I think we have to get another camera to set up for Oatmeal because Oatmeal's been laying on the bed when I stream. And he's very cute. Although he's been a little feisty lately. Mostly because he likes to eat my bracelet because it's got like a little dangly bit. But then he'll like accidentally bite me. And I know he doesn't mean to bite me. Because he's a good boy. Even when he's being a naughty boy. But yeah, I'm thinking maybe when we switch upstairs and I get my own office, I might try and talk about Joel always. When we switch upstairs, I think that I might want to set up another cam, just like a specific cam for the little guy, because he seems for the most part to lay wherever I am. So if I'm like laying on the couch, he'll like lay on the couch with me. If I'm in the bedroom, he'll come in the bedroom with me. And then if I'm at my desk, normally he'll come and he'll lay on Macy's doggy bed below my desk. So how are you, Sithy? Sithy, are you doing a countdown for Christmas vacation? I'm like slowly just like becoming more and more despondent at work. I had to do a bunch of like tasks this morning and it was like 1 o'clock and I just like flopped on the couch and I was like, I think mentally, physically, emotionally, spiritually, I'm done. I think I'm over my existential crisis. I hope so, Sithy. Was that when you were posting in the Discord and I was like, hey Sithy, what the fuck? Down in my, I get that, man. I'm always here if you want to talk as well. I know sometimes you just gotta talk out those feelings. So if you ever want to talk, I am here. I'll be lurking during enjoy Jeopardy. I used to watch like Jeopardy religiously. I just need to calm my tits and enjoy life. It is, you know, it's because I get it, Sithy, because it is like it's kind of hard when like the world is just like collapsing around you and you have to like all of these things are so out of your control. I get that. I was actually talking about that with like my manager. My manager and I had like a 2-hour discussion the other day where I was just kind of like, yeah, this is how I'm feeling about life in general lately. And she was just like, girl, same. Hi, Chunky. How you doing, Chunky? I spent the day hanging out with the Trump tart. Oh, God. Gross. See my dad? I'm happy. Happy to see you, Chunky. How are you doing? I know you were feeling kind of sick the other day. I hope you're feeling better. Also, I need to tell you guys something funny that happened before. I have my little remote for my lights behind me, and I was like, wow, these have been blue for quite a long time. I'm gonna change them to a different color. So I was like And the little box to like change it is like on the other side of the wall near Joel's desk. So I had had my hand like extended past the wall to try and get like the sensor to work. And Joel just turned the lights off on me because he thought that they were off. And I was like, no, I was just trying to change the color. And then he kept trying to turn them back on and they wouldn't turn back on for a couple of seconds. And I was like, if you broke my lights, I would be so pissed right before stream. Anyway, that's me making fun of Joel. Let us talk Dragon Age. Oh, hi, Bobo. Bosa never comes on the desk. What are you doing? Joel's assault. Yes, sir. What? That's what Sithy said. I didn't say it. Sithy said it. What is Joel playing? I think Joel's getting ready for Magic over on Coven. I'm better now. Tomorrow's a day out in the city for my mental and for me to enjoy that. Aww, I love that. I hope you have so much fun. Definitely take the time to enjoy things for yourself. I think that's really important right now. I'm like, Post is like usually never on my desk. So I'm like nervous. I don't know what he's gonna get up to. Busa. Oh, booby boy. Hi. Oh, he got kicked off of Joel's desk, so he's coming over here. You guys heard my shoulder crack. That really hurt. Anyway. So last we left off, we went through the player's rulebook and we were talking about primarily character creation. So I kind of want to go through a little bit more in depth, especially in the character background options, because I'm also thinking about my character that I'm going to be building out for the Dragon Age game coming up over on Folk and Myth. You get Wednesday to Friday off for Christmas and supposedly most of the day Tuesday, according to the boss. Fingers crossed. I get the 25th to... I get the 25th to the 1st off, so I get like a full week off, which will be nice. My boss had asked if I was gonna like try to put in a PTO for like the Monday, Tuesday, and then the Thursday, Friday, the week after. And I was like, nah. I'm kind of just banking on people thinking that we're not working and they'll like not bother me. Lucky. I know I'm very it's nice having like a cushy office job sometimes. Although I miss my when I used to work in like the school district, it used to be so nice because I would get like Christmas break off. I would get all of like the Jewish holidays, all of the like we got like a week off for Easter, for spring break. We got like midwinter break off. That was really nice. So this is stuff that we had gone over to before the character creation. It's you create a character concept, which is basically your rough idea of something that you'd like to play, not like cementing any of like the race or anything, the class in, and then you determine your abilities. You choose a background, you choose a class, you pick your equipment, you calculate defense and speed, and then you pick a name. Every hero knows a name. And then you choose your goals and character ties that will tie you into the rest of the party. And then we have all of this. I feel like we went over. This is definitely just pulled straight from the character book. I want to find where the backgrounds are. I think they're just right after the character creation part. So we have all of these different backgrounds. Yeah. So we've got all of these different backgrounds. I'm going to kind of go through fairly loosely with these backgrounds and kind of go through them. I have a very specific one that I'm probably going to be choosing for my character. So we have Anders Survivor, The Anderfels is a nation in the northwest of Thedas, distant and remote from Ferelden. It is home of Grey Warden's headquarters, Weishaupt Fortress, and is one nation in which the Wardens retain an important political influence. No region of Thedas has paid a greater price for defeating the Blights. The Anderfels, once part of the Tevinter Imperium, was the center of the three of them, and its steps have still not recovered. The Blights poisoned the land to such an extent that they are utterly devoid of life. Even with the defeat of the old Blights, however, the Ander people could not rest easy. Darkspawn raids have been common there since the Divine Age. This has made the Anderfels a nation of survivors. You must be tough to see your adult years there. A surprising number of Anders choose to remain in this harsh environment, but those who decamp for other parts of Thedas are quite capable of taking care of themselves. And then obviously you would get a bonus to Constitution. You would roll 2d6 to figure out what other benefits you get for the character. I think this would be like a really fun, I imagine maybe playing like a Grey Warden, because I don't think there's an actual Grey Warden background. And I imagine that you would kind of just have to kind of cobble together a Grey Warden, which makes sense because like a Grey Warden can be a mage, a rogue, or a warrior. Then we have an apostate. In those nations outside the Tevinter Imperium, including Ferelden, during much of the history of Thedas, only the members of the Circle of Magi may legally practice magic. Those who defy the law are known as apostates. The Circle of Magi is supposed to find humans and elves with magical power and train them before they endanger themselves and others. All those who practice magic risk demonic possession and could turn into abominations, and there is always the risk that any mage might turn to the same forbidden arts practiced by the magisters of the Tevinter Imperium, dangerous blood magic that relies on ritual sacrifice and subverts the mind of other men. This is why there are Chantry Templars in every circle tower, and why Templars hunt down apostates. While the law treats all apostates the same, the category is a broad one. Some are self-taught mages who discovered how to use magic by trial and error. Some come from magical traditions that predate the formation of the Circle of Magi, like hedge mages and Avar shamans. Others are rebels opposed to the Circle of Magi, the Chantry, or both. They resent the law and choose to go their own way despite the risks. If you choose to play an apostate, your character will have a disadvantage that those of other backgrounds do not. Namely, your character's powers must be carefully used lest they draw unwanted attention from the Circle of Magi or the Chantry Templars. The upside is that this conflict can lead to some great stories, but you should understand that your character will face challenges others do not. I like that they included that, because obviously as if you've played the Dragon Age games, you know that apostates are like they hunt down apostates. Although it is kind of funny when you're playing a mage in Dragon Age 2 as Hawk, and you're just carrying around a staff and you're just like, oh, it's just like my walking stick. Literally doing magic in front of the Templars, you just turn a blind eye. But I think it's very interesting that they include that, so that is something that you can take into account, especially for like role-playing purposes. Antivan Wayfarer. Is that Isabella? That's got to be Isabella. Antiva is a coastal nation north of Ferelden and east of the Tevinter Imperium. While technically a monarchy, Antiva is really ruled by its merchant princes. It produces little of note, but excellent wine, so trade is a way of life. Antiva is famous for its merchants and sailors, though it has little in the way of a warrior tradition. It is said that Antivans are good at everything but fighting, or at least fighting on the battlefield. In fact, they excel at dirty fighting, and Antiva is home to the most notorious guild of assassins, thieves, and spies in the Thedas, the House of Crows. The Crows are part and parcel of the political structure in Antiva, though the identities of the rich and powerful that direct its council are secret. The system seems anarchic? I don't know if I'm pronouncing that word right. But the House of Crows has proved to be a valuable safeguard to Antivan independence. While the nation may not have a standing army, the leaders of any invading force know that the Crows will get to them in the end. This is an effective deterrent to would-be conquerors. So that's really cool. So obviously Antivan Wayfarer, I assume, would be a crow. You can be a crow. Wonder if you can either play as a rogue or a warrior. A lot of these, I feel like you probably could get away playing as a mage for some of these backgrounds. I think that they sort of assume that if you're not a circle mage, at least in this sort of mechanic, if you're not going to be a circle mage, then you're going to be an apostate. But I think kind of doing one or the other without giving way for like other backgrounds that you might be able to get away with playing a mage as kind of limits you a little bit. So as if I were to run a game of Dragon Age, I would definitely allow for mages in specific other backgrounds that wouldn't otherwise allow for them, like rules as written, like Antiva and Wayfarer. Avar. The Avar are a rugged human people who make their homes in the Frostback Mountains. In centuries past, they were one of the many barbarian tribes that lived in and around the Ferelden region. When the Alamari clans united 400 years ago under the first king of Ferelden, the Avar refused to join them. The Avar were too independent, too proud, and too stubborn to pay homage to any king. Their continued raiding into the lowlands led to many long and bitter wars, but ultimately they could not stand up to the united forces of Ferelden. The Avar were driven back into their mountain homes, but no commander dared to fight them in their home ground. Since then, there's been an uneasy peace with Ferelden. Today, the Avar are largely isolated in the Frostbacks. They do trade with the dwarves, and some Avar descended to the lowlands to work as mercenaries or adventurers. Most people in Ferelden consider them uncivilized barbarians, while the Avar think their old foes weak and corrupt. It is thus no great surprise that there are still sporadic raids from the Frostbacks, but the Avar have learned to strike quickly and retreat to their holds before they are counterattacked. I think we have another picture of an Avar warrior. And again, you can either play as a warrior or a rogue. However, in the apostate background, it states that apostates can be of like other traditions, including Avar shaman. So I don't think that I would necessarily, if someone wanted to play an Avar and wanted to be a mage, I think that I would allow that without them having to play the apostate background, because the Avar is a very specific background with like your own specific culture attached to it, as opposed to an apostate that either might have run away from the circle or maybe gone kind of hidden from the chantry. Chastened Wilder. The Chastened are a barbarian folk that live in the south of the Ferelden and the Karkari wilds. While they did unite on several occasions with the Avar and the Alamari to fight against the Tevinter Imperium, Fereldans have stronger memories of the many times the Chastened surged north into their land. It is said that ages ago the Chastened conquered the Alamari, the ancestors of the modern-day Fereldans, until the latter rose up in rebellion. Later, the legendary witch Flemeth led an army of Chastened into Ferelden to take vengeance on the Ban who had been her husband. While Flemeth is said to have been killed at the time, many claim that she and her daughters, the Witches of the Wild, live amongst the Chastened well into the Dragon Age. They said the name of the game. Today, the Chastened are a more peaceful folk, but there are many superstitions regarding them. They live in houses built on stilts and do some trading with Fereldans living in the south. Some Fereldans still consider the Chastened a threat and fear the day a charismatic figure will unite them once again. Again, you could play as a rogue or a warrior, but I would say that you could probably play as apostate as a Chastened Wilder. I think again, like having just like a broad thing of like apostate kind of takes away from like the culture that you would get from playing a Chastened Wilder. And of course you can just do that like RP wise, but I like to mention a Flemeth. Also, I still love this this mage art. I think this is from Origins, and I desperately wish that this was an actual outfit that we could wear in game. Circle Mage. Images past the use of images wood. Just me spraying anti-horny spray at you. Images past the use of magic would outlawed outside the Tevinter Imperium in ages. There's not really a space. Aha. In ages past, the use of magic was outlawed outside the Tevinter Imperium, and those who practiced it were persecuted and hunted. This only got worse with the rise of the Chantry, as the new religion spoke out against magic as corrupt and evil. Someone say horny. God damn it, Sithy. It's almost Sithy's time of the month. We gotta be careful, guys. Magic, of course, was also quite useful, particularly when fighting creatures like Darkspawn. This led to a compromise in which mages could legally practice magic, but only under the watchful eye of the Chantry. Blood magic, the practice of the dreaded Maleficarum, was also strictly forbidden. During the Second Blight, the mages proved their worth and helped save humanity. This allowed them to gain a measure of autonomy, and thus was born the first Circle Mage. Circle of Magi. While there are still Chantry Templars stationed in every circle tower, it is the mages who police those with magical power. Circle mages find humans and elves with magical talent and bring them to their towers for training and supervision, to teach them to defend themselves against demonic possession. Practicing magic outside a circle is serious or even capital offense in many time periods. Inconceivable, you fucks. And again, obviously you're going to take the mage class for the circle mage background, and you can either play humans or elves. I think a cool character that you might be able to play is so a lot of the times in Dalish clans, if there are too many mages, a lot of the times the Dalish will sort of set loose or trade off their mages to other clans that don't have mages. But if they are unable to do that, a lot of the times those mages are given to the circle. So I think if I were to play like a circle mage, I would play like a Dalish mage who was basically kicked out of their clan because there's too many mages. Again, this is artwork from Origins, and this just goes hard. City Elf. It is said that over 2 millennia ago, the elves and dwarves were the powers of Thetis. The elves ruled above the earth and the dwarves below it. The elves spent centuries becoming master magicians, craftsmen, and artists, and it is said they were nearly immortal. When humans first arrived in Thetis, the elves gave them aid despite what they considered impatient and rude behavior on the humans' part. The elves were shocked when diseases carried by the humans began killing them. They were horrified when they discovered that just being near humans shortened their lifespan and made them mortal. They attempted to shut themselves away from the rest of Thetis, and the rising Tevinter Imperium attacked them with its legions and its blood magic. The elf kingdom of Arlithin fell, and the survivors spent the next 500 years as slaves in the Imperium. When the freedom did come, it was all too brief. The new elf homelands, the Dales, tried to revive the lost culture of Arlithin. That included worship of the ancient elven pantheon, and this the Chantry would not tolerate. It declared an exalted march against the Dales, accusing the elves of blood magic and practicing other forbidden rites. And for a second time, the elves lost their homeland. Some of the survivors became wanderers, but the rest were absorbed into the various human kingdoms. Here, the so-called city elves still live as second-class citizens, mostly working as servants and laborers. Few remember the culture of their heritage, fewer still can even speak Elven anymore, and almost none of them have a lifespan much longer than that of a human these days. They live in segregated sections of cities and towns known as alienages. Bitter and downtrodden, many city elves turn to crime. These rogues, all too common, only reinforce the prejudice most humans have towards city elves. Never trust a Sicilian when death is on the line. Jesus Christ. I trust a Sicilian named Luigi. You can play either as a warrior or rogue. That I would say, I think a city elf, you would not be able to play a mage. I would say no mages for city elf, just because of how police city elves are. It would be very, very hard and uncommon for a mage to get away with being unnoticed. Trust Luigi when death is on the line. Dalish Elf. So this is what I'm thinking of playing. After 500 years of slavery, the elves won their freedom as part of a rebellion that broke the power of the Tevinter Imperium. While liberated humans and barbarians from the south took over former lands of the Imperium, the human leader Andraste gifted the elves the region of southern Orlais as a reward for their role in the rebellion. Here they established the Dales, a new elven homeland to replace long-destroyed kingdom of Arlithin. Despite the centuries of slavery, the elves remembered much of their heritage, and in the Dales, their culture had a rebirth. As part of this, they began to worship the ancient elven pantheon, and this ultimately caused their downfall. The Chantry and the Orlesian Empire would not stand for such heresy, and it declared an exalted march against the Dales. A second elven homeland was destroyed, and most of the survivors went to live in human lands to become city elves. The remaining leadership of the Dales would not bend a knee to the humans, however. They chose a life of exile instead. These Dalish elves are descended from some of the oldest elven families, and they retain a strong sense of duty to their people. They have taken it upon themselves to preserve elven culture and lore so that when the day comes that the elves once again have a homeland, they can teach the ancient ways to their city elf brethren. until the time the Dalish elves wander in the ornately carved wagons they called Aravel. Called land ships by the humans, Aravel are pulled by Hala, a unique breed of white stag that originated in long-lost Arlethin. The Dalish elves travel in small family groups for the most part and do not stay in one place for long. Rumor has it that they have rediscovered the secrets of elven magic, but if that is true, no human has seen proof of it. Especially when Luigi is good at 3D printing. Yeah, so I'm thinking of playing a Dalish elf. Probably a Dalish rogue. So I would get +1 to my willpower. Either a +2 dexterity or a +2 courage. Speak and read the trade tongue. You can speak Elven. And then additional benefits could be +1 communication, seeing, hearing, cultural lore, +1 to dexterity, self-discipline, writing, or perception. I think someone just fell. Yeah, I think I'm probably gonna end up playing a Dalish elf. My idea is to play a Dalish elf that, Dalish hunter, that has been banished from their clan for reasons. And thus is kind of doing like mercenary work now. Dwarf Duster. Dwarven society in Orzammar is rigidly hierarchical. Man, words are really hard today. Most dwarves belong to a caste with the nobles on top and the servants on the bottom. All citizens with a caste receive certain protections under the law. There exists an underclass of dwarfs who have no caste, however. Casteless are known as Dusters, after their neighborhood, Dusttown, in Orzammar. Those dwarves lost their caste or descended from those who did. Dusters receive no protection under the law, and they are forbidden from doing any job controlled by a caste. Practically speaking, this means almost no legal work is open to them. They can't be miners, craftsmen, traders, or even servants. To survive in Dusttown, most have little option but to turn to crime. Many work for the Carta, a powerful organized crime syndicate that controls a virtual shadow economy in the slums. Dusters are the most likely dwarves to leave Orzammar. They have little to lose by going to the surface, since they are already casteless. If there is a surprising facet to dwarf society, it is that so many Dusters stay in the city that treats them like rubbish. Those who escape to the surface rarely look back. Their own town with blackjack and hookers. I agree. So Dwarf Duster, you can you can only be a rogue, so you can't be a warrior. That's interesting. But that makes sense though, if like you're gonna have them be a part of like Carta or anything like that. That is primarily smuggling and things like that. Read in Dwarven and the trade tongue. Escaped elven slave. This is something that actually kind of bothered me with Veilguard, was it very much felt like, especially in like Tevinter, where we know that they keep slaves and that is a regular practice for them, we didn't actually see a whole lot of that culture. And I don't know if it was like a... I don't know if it was like a... them being hesitant to include that. Maybe due to a fear of like backlash or something. But it definitely feels like they sort of... Yeah, they glossed over it. It feels like they sort of just like... They glossed over it, and then they also made it more palatable. And especially having Veilguard take place in Docktown as opposed to them showing us like the upper city, where I imagine that slaves would be much more prevalent within the society. I feel like it's almost like a disservice to the lore that we've already been taught. because it definitely seems like they were trying to gloss over it and not make it like in the forefront when I think that it should have been. Because I think that would have been a very interesting dichotomy with Nev in particular. Nev, who loves Dockdown, who loves Minrathous, who wants to protect Minrathous. But also having her have that, having to reconcile the deplorable things about Minrathous. I think that would have been a very interesting conversation to have with Nev and Veilguard. Especially if you choose to not save Minrathous, if you choose to save Treviso instead. I can definitely see how I think I could see how like a lot of people might not want to kind of even include, if like they were running a Dragon Age TTRPG, they might not want to include like the slave aspect. But I don't know, I think it's so like important to the lore to include that, especially for a lot of like the characters, for like Dorian, for Fenris. I think it's important to include those things. What's up, Bruin? How's it going? So, escaped elven slave. The elves were first enslaved when the Tevinter Imperium conquered the ancient kingdom of Arlethan. After they had suffered 500 years of bondage, Andraste helped to free the elves, and the rising slaves helped defeat Tevinter. That should have been the end of slavery in Thedas, but it was not. The Tevinter Imperium slowly returned to its old ways, and today slavery is practiced openly there. Indeed, in some alienages, elves sell themselves or their relations into slavery to provide for their families. Tevinter slave hunters operate in secret all over Thedas, kidnapping elves and others and shipping them back to the Imperium for a handsome profit. Most who succeed in escaping slavery flee to Tevinter as quickly as they can, for runaways are not treated kindly. Some slave lords go to great lengths to recover their property, particularly those who know magic, even chasing escaped slaves into other nations. It is difficult for escapees to truly feel free, with the threat of recapture hanging over their heads. Again, I think like that's like a very interesting, this could be like a very interesting character. Someone who's like a little bit dodgy, someone who doesn't trust very easily, and it actually gives like a reason as to why like they don't trust people very well. I'm gonna surf the streams for a bit, then play a game. What game are you playing? Like a TTRPG or like a video game? Oh, hello, little sir. My god, my arms hurt so bad. Yeah, they would be really twitchy. And then you can play as a mage, a rogue, or a warrior. You can read Tevinter. I think they actually changed the language of Tevinter to Teveen. But don't quote me out on that. It would make sense for it to be called Teveen instead of Tevinter. Ferelden Craftsman. The crafting class in Ferelden is essentially the middle class, above the freemen but below the nobility. The class is divided into a series of guild-like organizations called craft houses. Most of these groups are indeed concerned with crafting of some sort, smithing, wood carving, building, etc., but there are two exceptions. First, there is a trader's craft house, which is an organization of merchants. Surface dwarves founded it originally, since the rough and tumble barbarians of Ferelden looked down on the middlemen. The dwarves are still in charge, but most of the day-to-day work is done by Fereldans now. Second, the chantry is considered part of the crafting class. This gives priests an honored position, but not as much political sway as the chantry would like. The chantry in other nations, particularly Orlais, has much greater political power. Ferelden craftsmen are not as likely as freemen to become adventurers. Their lives are generally more settled and have obligations to their craft house or the chantry. There are always those who seek more from life, however, be it the armorer in search of rare metals, the explorer looking to open up new trade routes, or the priest in search of ancient artifacts. I think this is interesting because what we know about the hierarchy in the chantry is that priests in particular don't actually hold that much power, because surprisingly, a lot of like the power in the chantry goes to women. The divine is a woman, at least in the Southern Ferelden chantry. The Vine is a woman. A lot of like the people who are in charge of specific chantries are women. A shooter called the First Ascendant, or I'll stream some more BattleTech. Oh, nice. I definitely heard of the First Descendant. I've definitely heard that before. I've probably seen it on Steam. So you can play as a rogue or a warrior. Doesn't look like there's any sort of race. Yeah, it looks like you can either play as like any sort of race. You can play as elf, human, dwarf. Man, I really wish they I want to search around and see if they've included a kind of addendum to include Qunari. I think that would be really interesting to see how they would build out a Qunari in this system. Ferelden Freeman. Ferelden, described in detail in Chapter 7, is a young nation that human barbarians founded 400 years ago. The Alamari tribes had come to the region long before that, but they were so fractious that it took extraordinary events for them to come together and to form Ferelden. Now it is a nation on the rise, hoping to build on its successes to become a great power. Nobles rule Ferelden, and the craftsmen and the priests have a powerful influence upon them. The bulk of the population, however, is made up of freemen. As their name indicates, they are not slaves or serfs, but free men and women. They are soldiers, shopkeepers, laborers, farmers, entertainers, hunters, and so on. The freemen are not rich, but they are proud and pragmatic. In Ferelden, a free man with ambition and ability can climb the social ladder, and many do just that. You can either play a rogue or a warrior. And again, this actually kind of makes sense. That it would only be rogue or warrior. I think that if like someone wanted to play like a freeman and wanted to play like a mage who has been in hiding, I would probably allow that. But I think that it would probably be just like easier for them to just play an apostate. Ferelden Noble. Nobility in Ferelden is hereditary, but not exclusive. It is possible for commoners to become nobles through deeds and service, which stands in stark contrast to nations like Orlais. Perhaps the most famous example of this is Logan MacTyr, who rose from nothing to become one of Ferelden's Tairns. The most common nobles in Ferelden are knights, heavy-foot soldiers who swear direct allegiance to an Arl, Ban, Tairn, or the king/queen. Many young nobles, knowing they will not inherit a position unless an elder sibling dies unexpectedly, turn to adventuring to make a reputation for themselves. I would almost say that for Ferelden Noble, you would have to be a human. Just because that has sort of been the standard for... That's been the standard in the games as well. So I would think that for Ferelden Noble, you'd only be able to play a human. I don't think that I would allow like a Ferelden Noble, like elf or dwarf. And you could either play as a rogue or a warrior. Free Marcher. North of Ferelden, across the Waking Sea, are the Free Marches. This loose confederation of city-states is known as the breadbasket of Thedas due to its rich farmland and abundant crops. The Free Marches have no central government, and the most of the time its member cities are embroiled in any number of minor feuds over trade, tariffs, and territory. When threatened by an outside power, however, the Marchers pull together and put armies in the field that rival those of their neighbors. The major cities of the Free Marches are Ansburg, Hercynia, Kirkwall, Markham, Ostwick, Starkhaven, and Tantervale. The Marchers are a dynamic people. They are great traders, but also fierce defenders of their home cities. Some practice their martial skills to compete in the Grand Tourney, a traveling tournament and fair that moves from city to city. Roughly once every 3 years, the Grand Tourney settles down for a year to hold a contest of arms. People from all over Thedas travel to the Free Marches to see or compete in this legendary event. Because I hate dwarves. Absolutely. No nobility. Well, no Ferelden nobility. You can play a dwarf and be dwarven nobility. But Orzammar, not Ferelden. Bitch. See? Highborn dwarf. Here you go. Let's see. Choose to pick a trade. You can play a rogue or a warrior. And yeah, you wouldn't, for a Free Marcher, you could play like dwarf, rogue, or elf. Highborn dwarf. At the top of Dwarven society are the noble houses, whose feuds and fights go back many generations. The rest of the population is divided into castes, within the top tier of which are the warrior caste, smith class, and artisan caste. The warrior class is the most prestigious. The warriors fight a never-ending war against the Darkspawn and the Deep Roads, as well as providing the rank and file soldiers of the noble houses. There are also so many warriors that the caste is actually divided into several subcastes, including those of officers, soldiers, and guardsmen. The smith caste is the next most important caste. How would the warriors fight without arms and armor? Finally, there's the artisan caste. They, too, are highly esteemed in dwarf society, for they are the builders and makers that make Orzammar hum. Since upper caste dwarves have privileged positions in Orzammar, it is rare for them to leave for the surface world. Some are exiled for committing crimes or being on the wrong side of a dispute between houses. Others may be sent on missions by the human lands. To the human lands, though this is an unusual occurrence. If you want to play an upper caste dwarf who has left Orzammar, you should talk to your GM about the circumstances of your departure and whether this will lead to the loss of your caste should you return home. And we also know that like if you leave Orzammar, a lot of times like you automatically lose your caste. So I hate to say it, but Highborn Dwarf would actually be a really fun background to play, just because you kind of have that conflict already built into your background, and it would be really fun to explore that and see how that takes place throughout the game. Obviously, you get to choose a caste. So you can do artisan, smith, or warrior. You get to pick some of the ability focuses. Ooh, you have magic resistance, a side effect of growing up in a lyrium-rich environment. You gain +2 bonus on ability tests to resist the effects of spells and other magical attacks. I kind of wish that you got a little, like, something extra depending on what caste you chose, whether it's artisan, smith, or warrior. Like, if you got, like, a little bonus effect for choosing one or the other. Lowborn Dwarf. The dwarves of the miner, merchant, and servant caste do the hard work day after day that keeps Orzammar functioning. The miner caste is the most prestigious of these three, particularly those that do the dangerous job of mining lyrium. The merchant caste is the next most important, as they bring money into the city and arrange valuable trade deals. The servant caste is the lowest, though even they rank above surface dwarves in the caste list. Of this group, it is the members of the merchant caste who are most likely to leave Orzammar or become adventurers. Trade deals often lead to contact with humans, and the surface dwarves were originally part of the merchant caste. Sometimes, a member of the merchant caste will join their kin in the surface despite the loss of status at home. This happens more rarely with members of the miner and servant caste, though it is not unknown for miners to sell their expertise to human nations for gold and other riches. Again, rogue and warrior, you get to choose, and again, I wish you could choose, like, there was like a little benefit to choosing like merchant, miner, or servant. Navaran adventurer. Navarro was once one of the free marches. Hey, welcome on in, Ghost. How are you? Welcome on in. Hello. How is Multiversus? Hi, Raiders. If you don't know me, I'm Myriad. We do a myriad of things on this channel, including art, variety gaming, as well as TTRPG content. And right now, we are reading through the Dragon Age TTRPG by Green Ronin Publishing. And we're kind of going through the character creation stuff right now. So we're learning about backgrounds. I am a big Dragon Age nerd, so it was fun. Hope stream. Yeah, stream's going great. Thank you so much for the raid. Do not feel obligated to stick around if you need to go do some post-stream care, but I appreciate the raid nonetheless. Navaran adventurer. Navarra was once one of the free marches, and it still might be, if not for the military genius of the Pentagast clan. A series of strong rulers and brilliant commanders enabled Navarra to expand and become a powerful nation in its own right. This was cemented in the Blessed Age, when Navarra defeated Orlais in a war and conquered the mineral-rich hills to its west. Despite the military tradition of Navarra, few thought that this upstart nation could beat the Empire and its vaunted chevaliers. The hills remain under Navarran control, but are a troubled territory. The Navarrans tax their new subjects heavily, and Orlais foments unrest there. The Navarrans are proud of their heroic traditions, and this is celebrated with statuary throughout the country. Navarra is famous for its dragon hunters, who were thought to have eradicated dragonkind until the start of the current age. The romance of such deeds exerts a strong pull on the young, and many seek their own adventures throughout Thedas. They hope they too will be celebrated in song and statue in their homeland one day. I would really love to play an Navarran adventurer too, just because like dragon hunter. Love a dragon hunter, and also just the culture of Navarra is really good because it is very much like cemented in like necromancy, as we sort of see in Veilguard with the necropolis. That's like another thing that I I wish we saw a little bit more of. I wish we actually saw like more of Navarra and not just the necropolis, because I think that the necropolis is still like a small part of Navarra as a whole. If you play a Navarran adventurer, you get a plus to your willpower. You can either get might or courage. You speak and read Orlesian and the trade tongue, and then you can play as a rogue or warrior. God, I would love to play like a dragon hunter. Orlesian commoner. Commoners in Orlais have a hard lot in life. The nobility rules and the chevaliers have the power of life and death over any commoner. Most of the population of Orlais consists of serfs, laborers tied to estates with little to no social mobility. They spend their entire lives within a few miles of where they were born and have little hope that their children will lead better lives than they did. In the cities, there is an emerging middle class of merchants and tradesmen. They have more wealth and opportunity than the serfs, and many travel within the empire and even beyond. Still, the difference between even the successful common folk and the opulent nobility is glaringly obvious to outsiders and the observant. This is like an interesting little bit, because serfs are kind of just one step above slavery. So that's a very interesting. I think that could be like a very interesting dynamic. Is like I wonder if there's like Orlesian nobility. Yeah, there is. If you had like a party with like an escaped Tevinter slave and Orlesian nobility, and like the Orlesian nobility thinks that, oh, serfdom is like completely cool, completely fine, it's not like slavery at all, and like that sort of conflict and butting heads between the slave and the escaped slave and the nobility, and being like, no, it's kind of the same thing actually, it's just a different name. I think it would be uncommon for an Orlesian commoner, uncommon for an Orlesian commoner to be a dwarf. I think they most likely would be humans or elves. But if like they could, if like the player could put up a good reason why a dwarf might be born into like Orlesian, especially serfdom, I would probably let it go. Orlesian exile. Orlais is the most powerful and cultured nation in Thedas. The Empress Selene I rules from the glorious city of Val Royeaux. The Androstian chantry is also centered in the city. Its leader, the Divine, rules from her seat in the Grand Cathedral, one of the most breathtaking buildings in Thedas. In Orlais, secular power and religious power meet, and it is not often clear where one ends and the other begins. Despite the power of the Empire, however, Orlais has seen serious setbacks in the last 60 years. First, it lost a war with Navarra over a slice of valuable territory. Then the Orlesians were defeated in Ferelden and their occupation there ended. The situation remained tense for some years, but under King Merrick, relations with Orlais were eventually normalized, and the threat of renewed war receded. Within Orlais, and in Val Royeaux in particular, the nobles play an endless game of status and politics. The gossip of the salons can end a man's life as quickly as a sword thrust. The fickle nature of factions and fashion can see a family ruined one year only to return triumphant the next. Like any game, this one has losers, and sometimes the wisest course of action is to leave Orlais, at least for a time. Some are formally exiled for crimes real or implied, while others choose to wander Thedas under conditions at court change. Such Orlesian exiles can be found all over Thedas. I think this is another interesting background, because it definitely sets that conflict in the background. There are definitely backgrounds here that you can choose that are a little less... that kind of give you a little less to work on, but that also means that you have a lot more to work on. So a lot of the times when you have backgrounds that give you not a lot of information, or not any sort of conflict that might be built into your background, it kind of gives you a little bit of wiggle room and an opportunity to sort of build out your own conflict. But that can be kind of detrimental to some players who kind of either don't want to put that kind of effort into a character background, or just simply don't know how to do that. So I think having these sort of backgrounds included where there is like specific types of conflict that can appear depending on the background that you choose is kind of invaluable, especially to newer players. to finish my coffee. It's cold. It's gross. Yuck. Orlesian noble. Nowhere in Thedas is it better to be a noble than Orlais. There they stand atop the social order, unchallenged by the commoners they rule. It is perhaps a blessing to the common folk that the nobles spend most of their time engaged in the grand game, a never-ending battle for power, prestige, and status amongst the nobility. While this sometimes leads to the spilling of blood, the real battlefields of the game are the ball, the salon, and the court. The nobles of Ferelden find the whole thing ridiculous, but of course Orlesians find Fereldans to be silly country bumpkins whose opinions are as laughable as they are irrelevant. Probably wouldn't let anyone but a human play an Orlesian noble for obvious reasons. Orlais in particular looked down on elves, as we sort of saw with like the Exalted March and stuff. So I definitely wouldn't let anyone play an Orlesian noble unless they were a human. Orlesian student. The University of Orlais in Val Royeaux is a rare institution in war-torn Thedas. While the circles of magi are centers of learning, they are focused on magic. The university is a secular school where nobles from across Thedas enjoy the best education money can buy. Since eldest sons tend toward military careers, it is often the younger sons who go to the university. Thinking at university is often freer than within the Chantry, and this has led to the occasional conflict with Chantry fundamentalists. Note, you can use this background to represent nobles of other nations who come to the University of Orlais to study. Speaking and reading Orlesian is required, as most classes are taught in that language. Again, I would probably have it where you probably can only play a human in this particular background. Hey, Riku not included! Welcome on in, guys! How was Tiny Glade? I've been meaning to pick that up. It looks so cute. I love a good builder game. What's up, Lab? Hi guys, if you don't know me, I'm Myriad. We do a myriad of things on this channel, including art, variety gaming, as well as TTRPG content, and right now we are learning the Dragon Age TTRPG by Green Ronin Publishing. We are going through the character backgrounds right now. I hope your stream was great. It was great. I'm not the most creative person, but oh, that's great. I love that. I was following the development of Tiny Glade for a really long time, and then it came out, and I was like, just thanks for the follow. I was so like busy with like playing other games. I just haven't had a chance to pick it up. Goodbye. I like what you thank you. Yeah, so I don't think that I would let anyone who wanted to play an elf or dwarf. Maybe I would let a dwarf noble choose to be an Orlesian student, but I think that would kind of mostly fall to anyone who wanted to play a human. Nari Barasad. Oh, you can play a Kunari. Interesting, but you can't play, they don't have it as an option for the race, which is confusing. Is this, so it's the Dragon Age TTRPG, so it's a different rule set than D&D. But it is a TTRPG. So different rule set, but still a tabletop. We're just going through the backgrounds. If you're familiar with the... yeah, I'm a big Dragon Age nerd. If you're familiar with Dragon Age, the games, this is basically a TTRPG that they had created. I believe it was after the first game they made this. Because a lot of the lore in this is a little outdated at this point, just based on what we know from Inquisition and Veilguard. But I'm also going to be in a Dragon Age TTRPG at some point in the next couple of months, so I'm also kind of picking up my own inspirations and trying to build out a character in my head right now for my future game. So Kunari Barasad. It is fair to say that the humans of Thedas have little understanding of the Kunari. To outsiders, they appear a diabolic race of giants bent on conquest. It is often assumed the Kunari live under a military dictatorship. This is understandable because it is the leader of the military, the Arishok, who handles diplomacy with foreign nations. The Kunari do not have a dedicated group of diplomats, however. Instead, they have the Barasad, the vanguard of the Kunari people. The Barasad are soldiers first and foremost, and they view the world as such. They are trusted to go into foreign lands and deal with humans, elves, and dwarves. Sometimes these are formal diplomatic missions, but in other instances, the Arishok sends the Barasad to do intelligence work or investigate specific aspects of foreign cultures. The Barasad always have a mission, even if its nature is not apparent. If you choose this background, you should work out with your GM what brought you to Ferelden and what your orders are. Soldiers of the Barasad are sometimes gone for years at a time, but they are still part of a military machine, and at a certain point they must report in. In a long-running campaign, this is something you'll have to deal with eventually. It was released in 2010. Okay, I don't know. I thought like it was probably released in like, well, I think that coincides with the release of Dragon Age 2. Dragon Age 2 came out in 2011? Maybe? So this is interesting. Because this definitely... This is because you're essentially not choosing to play as an elf, human, or dwarf if you play a Barasad. Yeah, it came out in 2011. Got it. I knew. It was in my head. I knew it. So this is a background where your race is actually sort of built into it. So I would assume that you kind of ignore any sort of race attributes aside from this one. Because you get a plus to your strength. You can choose a ability focus of Cocoon or Intimidation. You can speak and read Kunlot and the Trade Tongue. You have to be male. Qunari females do not join the military, and we know that because the Qunari have a very strict social hierarchy. Like all Qunari, you are susceptible to magic. You suffer a -1 penalty on all ability tests to resist spells and other magical effects, such as magic item powers. You can choose a class, either warrior or rogue. Obviously, you would not be able to choose a Cerebos. Cerebos, which are the Qunari rogue mages. That's really interesting. I'm gonna have to go back and look to see if this particular rulebook includes Qunari, because when I was reading through the player's handbook, it did not have Qunari as a playable race. Ravaini Merchant. Ravain is a nation in the northeast Thedas that was once part of the Tevinter Imperium. While it survived 2 blights on its soil, Ravain was conquered by the invading Qunari in the Steel Age. 3 exalted marches later, the Qunari were pushed back to a single city, Kontar. The Chantry then turned its forces onto the Ravaini, for those people continued to follow their old ways and honor their traditional seers. Nowadays, Ravain is a center of trade even with the Qunari. Where there's shipping, there's smuggling and piracy, of course, and sometimes the line between a merchant and smuggler is blurry. The Ravaini are used to being the underdogs, but they have a spirit no force in Thedas has been able to crush. That's... Ravaini Merchant. Yeah, I wouldn't allow like a mage. I think because I really like the Ravaini Seers. I think that playing a Ravaini Seer would be really cool. I think I would probably have that fall under Apostate, technically. Saharan Convert. Saharan is a large jungle-dominated island north of the Defender Imperium. It was part of the Imperium for many centuries, but the Qunari conquered it in the Steel Age. Since then, the Imperial Chantry has launched countless offensives against the Qunari on Saharan, and the fighting has been fierce. The Qunari even lost the island in the Storm Age, but reconquered it in the Blessed Age. When part of the Imperium, Saharan had a large population of elven slaves. Many of these, and some humans as well, converted to the Qun and enjoy a much higher status as a result. If you play a Saharan convert, you'll want to read about Qunari beliefs on page 193. You can use the background to represent Ravaini converts as well, since the Qun had a large market influence there. I just hear Joel laughing. He's playing Magic. I think this could be a very fun... I think this could be a fun background to play. But I think the lack of knowledge that we kind of have about Saharan makes me a little like I don't really think I personally would want to play this background. I didn't know there was laughing. Usually when you're winning. That's usually when there's laughing. Surface dwarf. For all my dwarves out there. Freaks. In ancient times, the dwarves ruled a huge underground empire. They had many cities and settlements all connected by deep roads that ran far beneath the surface. Today, only 2 dwarven cities remain. Orzammar in the Frostback Mountains and the far distant Kal Shirak. Both are waging an endless war against the Darkspawn that conquered the old dwarven lands. While the 2 fortress cities remain strong, dwarven numbers have been dwindling slowly for the past 1,000 years. For the most part, Orzammar and Kal Shirak look inward. Dwarven society is rigid and caste-based, and politics are notably vicious. One caste stands apart from the others, though, the surface dwarves. They play a vital role in dwarven society, but curiously, other dwarves look down on them. Surface dwarves are largely merchants and middlemen, trading goods and raw materials to humans and elves. They provide ores, gems, finely forged steel, expertly crafted goods, and the precious mineral lyrium. Dwarf adventurers and wanderers also belong to the surface caste. In Orzammar and Kal Shirak, dwarves of this caste rank below all others except the casteless and the criminals. It is ironic that the most famous dwarf adventurers in human lands have little standing and no prestige in their homelands. So I would say the one caveat here is that I don't think I would allow someone to play a dwarf from Kal Shirak because we know a little bit more about Kal Shirak now, and the way that Kal Shirak is set up is vastly different from Orzammar. I'm pretty sure that the caste system has been eradicated there, at least within recent lore that has been established. And we know that a lot of the times the dwarves of Kal Shirak they kind of have closed themselves off to a lot of the rest of the world. Just because they are so busy fighting like Darkspawn and stuff. Tal-Vashoth. The Qunari people follow a philosophy known as the Qun. Before they embraced the Qun, it is said that they were a barbaric people prone to violent rages. The Qun made these barbarians into thinkers, planners, and technicians, though they also remained warriors. There are those Qunari, however, who reject the Qun. Some of them want to return to the old ways of their people, while others just want to live by their own rules. These rebels are known as Vashoth, or Grey Ones, and they must leave the Qunari lands before they are detected or face re-education or punishment. Such exiles are not considered part of the Qunari people anymore. In a spirit of defiance, they call themselves Tal-Vashoth, or True Gay Ones. Many of them worship the old animist gods of their people and see themselves as the real inheritors of their ancestors' legacy. Tal-Vashoth live in foreign lands and can get by as they can. Many work as mercenaries, while others become raiders, pirates, smugglers, or even slavers. Roving bands of Tal-Vashoth are not uncommon in the north, and they pose problems for both Qunari and the human settlements. So, God, I wish that we had more information about like the Qunari people as a whole, because obviously we have a fairly, we kind of know about the Qun and how like the Qun operates in like a hierarchy and everything. Everyone has their job and everyone has their place, but I wish that we had a little bit more information in regards to where the Qunari came from. In particular of them saying that many of them worship the old animist gods of their people, because we don't really get any of that information in the games regarding like who the Qunari were before the Qun. Were they like, how long has the Qun been a facet of their culture? Myriad, thank you for 30 months. Give you a cheeky little shout out. How are you doing, Fury? I was just saying Dreamlight Valley. I haven't played that in a while. I haven't picked that up in like probably over a year. I heard they had like a lot of updates made to it. Oh, you can play a mage as a Tal-Vashoth. That's interesting. Both paid and free. Oh, neat. I remember they were releasing that DLC, I think like a year or so ago. I gotta get back into it because I was having a really good time. That was like one of my like turn my brain off and just like go and It's like a Stardew game, you know, you just turn your brain off and play it. Tevinter Altus. The Tevinter Imperium is one of the few places in Thedas where mages are not under the thumb of the Chantry. This, in fact, was the root cause of the schism within the Chantry. Tevinter has its own divine and Chantry, though it is a much less powerful institution than the Chantry centered in Orlais. In ancient times, the Imperium was ruled by magisters, though it was their hubris that is said to have led to the creation of Darkspawn and the Blights. After Andraste freed the elven slaves and brought the Chant of Light north, the mages were in check for a time, but no longer. The Altus are the noble mages who rule the Imperium. Also raiding each other's shops. Oh, nice. Oh yeah, because like everyone's shops are like different. You're gonna make me like boot up the game after stream. I keep seeing like it pop up that you're playing it on Steam, and I'm like, man, I need to get back into that. Again, I think if you're playing an Altus, you have to play a human, because that is Tevinter nobility, and there's definitely no elven nobility in Tevinter. Tevinter Leighton. The Altus are mages with the power and prestige of Tevinter's old noble families, but they are not the only users of magic in the Imperium. Leightons are those mages who come from a mundane class, the Soparati. While they do not have all of the advantage of the Altus, their magical power still puts them ahead of the majority of Tevinter's citizens. They are identified at a young age and trained to serve. Some question the old ways and strike out for a life of adventure in other nations of Thedas. Outside of the Imperium, of course, few understand the difference between Altus and Leightons. Leighton. Again, probably gotta be a human. Tevinter Soparati. Commoners in the Tevinter Imperium don't have it as bad as those in Orlais. Slavery is still legal in the Imperium, and thus slaves are given the worst jobs. Tevinter commoners, known as Soparati, are more disparagingly as mundanes, work hard, but they benefit from the existence of a despised underclass. Many Soparati become soldiers as the Imperium is in near constant conflict with the Qunari and Saharan. While they do follow Andraste and worship in the Imperial Chantry, the emphasis on magic as a positive force, sometimes even referenced in prayer, can be shocking to people from other parts of Thedas. That's another thing. So like as I've kind of finished, and I still love Veilguard. I think Veilguard is a really good game. As I've kind of had time to kind of sit on Veilguard and start like my replays of it, there are definitely things that I wish had been included more within the game, and the inclusion of Andrastianism is definitely something that I feel should have been a little bit more emphasized. I feel like due to a lot of the game being primarily focused on the elven gods and the elven pantheon, the Chantry sort of got pushed to the side, and I feel like that shouldn't have happened. I think that there was room to explore both of those things. Especially the implications that kind of grew from what we learned to be true for the Elven Pantheon and what that would imply for the Chantry and Andrastianism as a whole. I think a lot of that was glossed over, and I think that the game should have done a better job of having those discussions by characters in the game as those things were sort of revealed. You know, when we learned like that Solus made the veil, I think that should have been a little bit more of a whoa, crazy. What do you mean? That's wild. And instead it was kind of very much just like, oh, whoa, okay, that's cool. Anyway, moving on. Waking Sea Raider. The Raiders of the Waking Sea are pirates. Once there were many individual pirate chiefs operating in the Waking Sea, but during the exalted marches against the Qunari, the nations of Thedas needed naval support for the war. Pirate ships came together as the Felishima Armada and provided key support in the conflict. At the end of the Exalted Marches, most hoped the Armada would disband, but the pirates had found their strength together and kept the raiders going. This isn't to say that the raiders won't fight against each other, but any threat to them as a whole is met with a fierce and unified response. One thing I wish that they had done for another thing I wish they had done for Veilguard is I feel like the Lords of Fortune is a faction that wasn't wholly necessary. I don't I don't think that the faction actually offered anything. In fact, I think that a lot of the factions kind of didn't offer a whole lot in terms of story. I think that the ones that sort of offered the most were the Grey Wardens, the Shadow Dragons, and the Veil Jumpers. I think that like the Crows, the Lords of Fortune, and God, what was the other one? There's 6, wasn't there? And the Morn Watchers didn't actually offer that much in terms of story. And I almost wish that there was more emphasis in our background as the Veilguard character, as Rook, on our race, as opposed to our faction dictating everything. Because I feel like when I played through Veilguard as an elf, I still didn't have that agency that I wanted as an elf. And that was something that Inquisition did as well, where you had an elven inquisitor who would ask questions about their own elven culture. And it felt very silly to me that my Dalish inquisitor was asking about who's Mythal. It's like, bitch, you know, you have her symbol tattooed on your face. What do you mean, who's Mythal? A dwarf-sized elf. That was not intentionally caps. What are you typing in caps lock? Why is your caps lock on? But anyway, that's how I feel about that. And I think that it's kind of one of those things as well, where it's like, I can't expect BioWare to kind of cater to like what I want as a gamer, because it's not what every other person wants. But I think that the story would have had a lot more impact if there was a little bit more care taken into not only what background you choose, but what race you chose. I think that in terms of dialogue options, Inquisition definitely had more dialogue options when it came to like if you were playing a dwarf, or if you were playing a human, or if you were playing an elf or a Canary. Whereas I felt like the split off of dialogue options for those races. What's up, Vlad? That my heart stuttered a little. The split off for dialogue options and Veilguard was definitely lacking, and it kind of made it so that like I think it definitely makes it so that like there's a little bit of a disconnect between how I imagine my Rook to be and how I'm actually able to play my Rook. Must have panic caps locked. Fair enough, dog. And now we go to classes. So let's see. Kind of already gone through this. Have we seen this before? Smash. Wood. So let's read about Mage. There's magic in all living things, but there are only a rare few beings can manipulate it. The Mage class represents these users of magic. They have been gifted or cursed, depending on your point of view, with the ability to absorb mana, the life force of living beings, and use it to cast magical spells. This sets them apart from normal people. In some times and places, mages have been honored for their power and wisdom. In others, they have been feared and hunted, especially once the dangers and demonic possession were understood. Blood magic, as practiced by the mages of Tevinter and the Maleficarum, has also made mages widely feared. The mage class represents users of the magic in Thetis, most commonly from the Circle of Magi, but sometimes the renegade apostates or other sources. A mage is capable of amazing feats, but must be wary of demonic attack when using the powerful magic. The very gift that allows mages to use magic also makes them vulnerable to possession. As a mage, you will be a master of arcane powers. You should stay away from melee combat, let warriors handle that, and use your spells to help your allies and harm your enemies. Hello. Hi. Oh, so yeah, I can say wood. That's how that works. Like to see all of your tats. Hey, baby girl, what you got going on under those robes? Where were we? While mages only start with 3 spells, they gain more over time. These ever-increasing options require more decision-making than other classes during encounters. If you've never played an RPG before, you might want to consider that before choosing this class. Whatever your experience, you'll want to read Chapter 5 Magic to learn more about the rules and terms used in spellcasting. Like warriors and rogues, mages gain specializations as they level up, allowing them to focus and increase their powers when dealing with certain situations, elements, or types of magic. There are multiple specializations for mages, including Force Mage and Shapeshifter. Specializations are detailed later. So we have some of your class powers. So you get Arcane Lance, which is basically a ranged attack. Magic Training, which gives you 3 spells to start with. You get mana points. It is interesting, here, another kind of deviation. God, I just fucking love this character design so much. It's so good. There's a deviation from lore in that it says that you get your... Well, I guess it's kind of not exactly wrong, because it says you get your magical power from living beings, from converting the energy of living beings into magic. I guess Titans are living beings, because that's essentially where, like, when you use lyrium, but you also get your magic from the Fade. There's not living beings in the Fade. There's spirits in the Fade. I can't look too deeply into this. It's gonna drive me crazy. We kind of went over all of these sort of these level things last time. The Rogue. The Rogue class represents the classic trickster. You can use this class to represent a thief, scoundrel, or a con man, or a scout, expert, or spy. While a warrior gets spy on brute strength and a mage on arcane power, a rogue relies on quickness and cleverness. Whether engaging in witty repartee or slipping a dagger between the enemy's ribs, a rogue must be artful to win the day. As a rogue, you are the eyes and ears of your adventuring group. You are excellent at ranged combat and can launch devastating melee attacks with your backstab ability. You are not, however, a true frontline fighter. Your defense will be good due to your dexterity, but your light armor means you can't absorb a lot of damage. Let the warriors go toe-to-toe with the enemy while you use stealth and surprise to keep them off balance. The rogue is the most open-ended of the classes. If you aren't sure where you want to go with your character, rogue is a good choice, as the class provides the flexibility to develop in many directions. Like mages and warriors, rogues gain specializations as they level up, allowing them to focus and increase their powers when dealing with certain situations, elements, or skills. There are multiple specializations for rogue, including assassin and shapeshifter. I think that's a typo. Specializations are detailed later. I think that's it. I don't know. I don't think that that's true. I don't think that rogues shapeshift. The warrior. The warrior is the classic fighter. You can use this class to represent any kind of martial character. Your character could be an ex-soldier, a caravan guard, a mercenary, a member of militia, or a former blacksmith turned adventurer. The warrior may fight for honor, revenge, justice, money, or a better tomorrow. Some members of the warrior class have received formal training, and others fight by instinct. All can handle themselves in a fight. As a warrior, you usually find yourself in the thick of combat. You have access to heavier armor and more weapons than members of any other class, and you can dish out and take a lot of damage. It is often up to you to engage the hardest hitting enemies, so the rogues and mages of the group have the chance to use their abilities. If you've never played a tabletop RPG before, the warrior is a good class to start with. Your powers are straightforward, and you have plenty to do in any combat encounter. Here we have equipment. Player characters do not generally start their adventure with much to their names. In play, your character will have a chance to get better equipment, but must start with the basics. Think of better gear as something to aspire to. Characters begin play with the following: a backpack, traveler's garb, and water skin. If you are a mage, you get 1 weapon and a staff. If you are a rogue, you get light leather armor and 2 weapons. If you are a warrior, you get heavy leather armor and 3 weapons. If you choose a bow or crossbow, you get a quiver and 20 arrows or bolts. If you have a weapon and shield talent, you get a medium shield. Make sure to pick weapons from weapon groups your character knows, otherwise you'll suffer penalties when you wield them, and there will be little point in carrying the weapons around. Also remember that some weapons have a minimum strength requirement, so be sure your character is strong enough before picking something like a two-handed sword. You also want to write down your armor's armor rating on your character sheet. This is a measure of armor's protection, and you'll need to know that during combat. Your character also gets 50 plus 3d6 silver pieces to buy additional gear. And then there is a list of available items. Defense and speed, we've kind of gone over that. Defense equals 10 plus dexterity plus your shield bonus if applicable. Your speed, oh, we do have Kunari speed here. Interesting. We didn't have Kunari speed in the other one. So dwarf speed is 8 plus your dexterity minus armor penalty. Elf equals 12 plus your dexterity minus armor penalty. Human is 10 plus dexterity minus armor penalty, and the same for Kunari. And then we have a list of names. So some sample dwarven names: Bronca, Jarvia, Orta, Sieg, Gorim, Kerdik, Legnar, Vengest. House names, so if you play like a specific house, so you get the Kadash, Orkil, Tethris, Varen, Orton. Elven names, so some female elven names: Alora, Desta, Hanan, Lanaya, Renala, Shiani, like dogs, Shiani. Sample male names: Athras, Phalos, Harrow, Lindell, and then Dalish clans. So Alvar, Brightmoor, Brunwyn, Elwood, Fadric, Litwin, Redway, Winbow, Yonwyn. Surprised they don't mention like Sabray, which is like the plan for your if you choose to play a Dalish elf in Origins. Human names tend to be based on their nation of origin. Each nation has a rough real-world equivalent. Tevinter names generally sound Roman. For Ferelden and much of the Free Marches, mostly think England or Ireland, though the multicultural Marcher states follow for some freedom from rules generally followed elsewhere. Orlais is Old French. Navarran names tend to have an Austrian edge to them, like Pentagast or Van Markham. And Tevan names are predominantly Italian or otherwise Mediterranean. Treviso and Rialto are two major centers there. Ravane is similar, though the Spanish influence is more apparent. There are more significant numbers of Canari in Ravane. The names of people from the Anderfels are roughly Germanic, though the Roman influence of Tevinter has made this hardly the rule for naming there. The people of Parvalin are Canari, so most names there follow their rules. Saharan is a mix of Tevinter and Canari sensibilities. Common people in most human cultures tend not to make much of their family names, though most do have them. In some places, they may identify themselves by their trade, Janelle the baker, or by their place of origins, Darren of Highever, if needed. Among the nobility, however, one's family name and title may carry all the clout and are used liberally by those who care about such things. So we have some sample of our names as well. Agnes, Anja, so that seems very Nordic. Armand, Arn, sample clan names: Stone Bear Hold, Wyvern Hold, Red Lion Hold, Eagle Reach Hold. And then some Ander names: Adelaide, Anki, Gunda these nuts. Antivan names: Abel, Chiara, Donata, Gianni, Ignacio, Marcio. Chasen names: Ankritz, Denor, Tyriel, Elaine, Sinane, Tristan, Gon, Helene. Ferelden names: Honora, Leandra, Moira, Adam, Alistair, Edward, Garrick, Landon. That's my nephew's name. Ravani names: Carmen, Daniela, Isabella, Felipe, Gil, Lalo, Rafi. Marcher names: Ada, Becca, Erie, Tetwin, Wilhelmina, Aiden, Cedric, Orsino. Navarran names: Ada, Cassandra. I wonder, like, that's really, like, funny, because it's funny seeing names from, like, other games that came out after this book was released, and it's like, Cassandra. Almeric, Aurelian, Caspar, Leonid, Matthias. You always wanted to be Alexander? Why is that? Orlesian names: Aline, Elodie, Yvette, Josette, Manon, Bastien, Ghislaine, Guy, Justine, Pierre. Family names, Chevelle, Patron, Melorine, Pellier. And then Sventer names, Calpurnia. That's another one we see. Calpurnia, Livia, Mercia, Severina, Amatis. Hey. Dorian. Hey, seen a lot of names we know. And then we have, these are ranks. So a lot of the times, Canarian Talvashoth will be known by their ranks. So like Sten in Dragon Age Origins, we see Sten only go by his rank, and then he's later actually becomes the Arishok. Alexander the Great, really? I don't think that I've ever really thought too much about what I would prefer to be called. In terms of like if I had the chance to like name myself. I've always felt like disconnected from Kirsten. But there is no other name where I'm like, yeah, that's me. I think Miri is probably the close, like myriad. And then we go into player basics. We've kind of already covered a lot of this. Judy? No. Like Judge Judy? Yeah, this is a lot of stuff that we went over in the GM's guide. I don't know, like I've never felt like any sort of like draw towards a name. Like Kirsten's fine. I answer to it. It's weird because at this point I interact with so many people online that so much more online than I do like in my like day-to-day life that I feel more of a I feel more connection to like Myriad or Miri. And I also had like a thing that happened the other day where I was talking to someone on like a video, like introducing myself to someone for work and like on a voice call, and I almost introduced myself as Miri. And I was like, that's not my name. It is my name, but it's not my name. It's not my name in this situation. Let's see, is there any... Oh, I want to do specializations. I want to look at the specializations. So a specialization is another way to customize your character and focus your class. If you say your character is a warrior, that's a broad statement. If you say that your character is a Templar, that says a lot more about them. You get access to specializations through your class. You can take a specialization for the first time at level 6. That grants you the novice degree and the appropriate specialization talent. You gain the journeyman degree at level 8 and the master degree at level 10. This is the only way to gain new degrees and specialization talents. You get a second specialization at level 14. Specializations included in this book are as follows. For mage, arcane warrior, blood mage, force mage, keeper, necromancer, shapeshifter, and spirit healer. For rogue, you get assassin, bard, duelist, legionnaire, scout, marksman, ranger, and shadow. For warrior, you get berserker. Jesus, Joel. Berserker, champion, chevalier, guardian, reaver, spirit warrior, and templar. I could also go for Liam, which is shortened version of my first name. I like Liam. I like the name Liam. That's a nice name. It's weird because I don't ever see anyone ever like shorten the name William to Liam. It's usually like Will or Bill or Billy. I've actually never seen it shortened to William. And I know like several Liams and their name is just Liam. Oh my god, I have green tea too. Wow. My brother's youngest son is Liam. I like the name Liam. Not sure if he is a William. It's really funny because I have had the name, when Joel and I have kids, if I have a daughter, I have had my daughter's name picked out for 15 years at this point. If I have a son, I am boned because I have no idea what I would name my son. I have no idea, like, any sort of like boy name. I have gone through lists and lists and lists, and like none of them have been like ones where I'm like, yeah, if I have a son, that's what I'm gonna name him. So I'm just banking on if when we have decided Joel Jr., don't fucking put that in the world, Sissy. Why you put that out there? Okay. Unlocking specializations. The default assumption of the rules is that every specialization for your class is open to you when you hit level 6. This gives you broadest array of choices. Your GM may require you to work to access certain specializations, however. That is their decision. You can unlock a specialization in 3 ways. Find a trainer. A trainer is a GM-controlled character who already has a specialization. Trainers have motivations of their own, of course, so they may require monies, favor, oaths, or actions before agreeing to teach you. Go on a quest. Quests can vary widely in specific details, but basically your GM will create a special side adventure with you as the focus, the completion of which will unlock the desired specialization. If you want to become a spirit healer, for example, you might have to figure out how to contact a benevolent spirit in the Fade. Find a tome. The knowledge and techniques of some specializations has been written down and can sometimes be learned by reading and studying. There are many forbidden tomes about blood magic, for example, and they have led many a mage down the dark path. I think that if like you wanted a specific specialization, I would probably make it a little like I wouldn't just give it to you, because I think that like if you're trying to go from like a pretty broad like I'm a mage to something that is more refined, I think that I would require you to unlock it in a specific way. So I like that. I like that this is included. Joel the Lesser. Since you know that you'll be getting a specialization at level 6, it's a good idea to start thinking about what you're going to choose when you hit level 5. Then discuss it with your GM. This will give your GM a chance to prepare and work your choice into the campaign. If they decide you must find a trainer, for example, that's something you can pursue while working towards level 6. Always wanted to be... I think a necromancer would be a lot of fun. That way I can race my... planning ahead. No, wait, hold on. Mage specializations, arcane warrior. Among the elves of ancient Thedas, there was a tradition that fused the arts of magic and combat known as arcane warriors. These mages channeled mana to boost their combat prowess. These abilities are thought by most to be forgotten, another casualty of the wars that destroyed the elven homelands. Though hidden, the knowledge does survive. Due to the rarity of this specialization, the GM should consider requiring it to be unlocked. Arcane warriors have not been widely seen in Thedas in hundreds of years. Their return should provide great story and adventure material for your campaign. So for this, as a novice, you learn a new weapon group of your choice, and you can use magic to satisfy the minimum strength requirement of weapons. You can also enter combat magic mode by taking an active action. While in this mode, you add magic instead of strength to your damage with melee weapons. However, any spell you cast in combat magic mode has its mana point cost increased by 2. Oof. As a journeyman, you reduce the strain of any armor you wear by 3. You're also allowed to take the armored training talent, which is normally restricted to warriors. As a master, when you activate combat magic mode, you can spend 5 mana points to shift yourself so you exist partly in the real world and partly in the Fade. This is called a Fade Shroud and gives you a ghostly countenance that is obvious and unsettling to many. A Fade Shroud increases your defense by 3, but you must pay 3 mana points per round to maintain it. You do not, the effect ends immediately. I definitely see a lot of mechanics from Origins and Dragon Age 2 built into the mechanics for this TTRPG, which actually is nice because it translates fairly well. Especially having things where you're maintaining something. And instead of having it, like in D&D terms, having it be like concentration, you're maintaining concentration, like you actually have to pay something to maintain an ability, which I really like. It definitely makes sure that you're in tune with your resources. I try that with Death Cleric on Baldur's Gate 3 when patch. Yeah, I think I might do a run of Circle of Stars Druid. I think because I love druids. Druids are like my go-to class for D&D, and I think I want to do Circle of Stars. I would have picked it up, but I was too deep in D&D 3. 3rd edition. 3rd edition is like very crunchy, right? 3rd edition is eventually, I think, was it 3.5 eventually became Pathfinder? Is that how that worked? Anything else? Nope. Blood Mage, the Devinter Imperium conquered Thedas with blood magic. Its magisters, it is said, learned the craft from demons. Every mage feels its allure. There is much power to be gained using blood instead of mana. The Chantry, however, forbids the practice, and on this they are unequivocal. The vile practices of the magisters led to the blights, and to the Maker turning away from his creations. Blood mages are maleficarum, singular maleficar, from the ancient divine, one who is depraved, and the Templars hunt them down. Interestingly, some Grey Wardens have been known to dabble with blood magic. Many Wardens believe that any weapon can be used against the Darkspawn should be, and that includes blood magic. Ooh, got a blood magic warden. That's good. That's real good. Yeah, Pathfinder was referred to as 3.75. I like that.
Listen.
You guys listening? As a novice blood mage, you can use your own blood to power your spells. First, you must activate action to enter blood magic mode. When casting a spell in this mode, you can inflict 1d6 penetrating damage on yourself, and you gain mana points equal to the damage. The mana points so generated must be used on the spell you are casting this round. Any excess are lost. You can use this mana to cast spells from any school, but you must be in blood mage mode, cast blood spells. While in this mode, you cannot be healed with potions or creation spells. You can end blood magic mode with another activate action. God, that's good. I love that, because that's exactly how it was in Dragon Age 1 and 2. Journeyman, you can use blood of a willing ally to power your spells. This works as per the novice degree, but your ally takes the damage. The ally must be within 6 yards of you when you cast a spell. Hello, Bashman. How are you, Bashman? Master, you can use anyone's blood to power your spells. You can pick a target with 6 yards of you and attempt to use their blood as a minor action. Success requires an opposed test of blood versus willpower, faith, or discipline. You win things work as per the journeyman degree. If the target is adjacent to you and helpless, unconscious, tied up, etc., you inflict 2d6 penetrating, and perhaps understand why mages of the Devinter Imperium were not so popular. I like that you can't be healed with potion or creation spells with when using this. Like that is just, that's good. I like that. Force Mage. Force mages love magic's raw power. While other mages use mana to create fire or electricity, Force mages prefer to pummel their foes with barely restrained magical energy. The common spell, Mind Blast, is but a taste of what a true Force Mage can do. Their telekinetic spells are much more potent, can toss enemies around like ragdolls. At the same time, Master Force Mages can stand unmoved on the battlefield. There's a very angry Foxy in the room, and I didn't do it. I think that's probably a lie. Novice, you learn the Force Mage spell Fists of the Maker. As a journeyman, you learn the Force Mage spell Telekinetic Burst. Why is this not italicized? Master, your mastery of force magic makes you unshakable. When an opponent uses the skirmish or knock prone stunts on you, you can negate the effect by spending mana points, 1 per use of skirmish and 2 for knock prone. I wish there was a little bit more. Like all these other ones, look at all like everything you get for these two. Dropping frames again. Stop that. Keeper. A keeper is the leader of a Dalish clan. They guide the clan both spiritually and physically. Keepers are respected for their wisdom and their knowledge of the ancient traditions of the elves. Each clan has one keeper and one first, the chosen successor of the keeper. A clan may have several apprentices, but usually only 2 full mages, the keeper and the first. Templars, of course, consider ancient unregulated magic to be dangerous and hunt keepers when they can. This is one of the reasons Dalish clans never stay in one place too long. As a novice keeper, you learn the keeper's spell Wrath of the Elven. Journeyman, you learn the keeper spell Ensnare. As a master, you can tap into the natural cycle of death and rebirth. When you kill an enemy with the spell Wrath of the Elven, you get back 1d6 health if you are wounded. If you are already at full health, you gain no benefit. Nope, this time it's true. She ordered some stuff off Amazon, including some Christmas gifts. Well, the gifts were part delivered in clear plastic packaging, so when I... Oh, no. Oh, Foxy, that sucks. I'm so sorry. Why do they do that? Why do they... I hate when I get, like, packages from Amazon and it's in, like, a clear package. Like, I don't want fucking people knowing my business. You bastards. Like, what's that about? Necromancer. Necromancers specialize in binding spirits drawn to the dead and dying and using them to increase their magic powers. They can cause crippling fear in opponents, summon spirits to fight for them, and can even turn their enemies' spirits to fight for them. Necromancers are not necessarily evil, though many hate and fear them for their connection to the spirits and death. As a novice, if you kill an enemy, your spell power increases by +2 for a number of turns equal to your willpower. Killing another enemy during this time resets the duration, but doesn't add to the spell power bonus. For Journeyman, you learn the Death Siphon, regardless of whether you meet the requirement. You can cast it for 4 mana points instead of 7. As a Master, if you go down to 0 health during a fight, a spirit appears by your body for a number of turns equal to magic or until the fight ends. This simulacrum takes on your form and can cast any spells you know for no mana cost. You're not considered to be dying while the simulacrum is protecting you, but you cannot be healed until the spirit returns to the Fade. Simulacrum cannot be damaged. That's dirty. So basically, if you go down to health, you just get free spells. That's crazy. Yeah, especially this time of year. That's so fucking annoying. God, why is my... Yeah, my bitrate's just, like, dropping right now. That's so fucking stupid. I wonder if it's because Joel's also on a call right now. Gotta love Comcast. I'm blaming Joel too, it's fine. Shapeshifter. The Circle of Magi likes to pretend that its methods of practicing magic is the only way, but that is not true. It is dominant, certainly, but there are older traditions that defy the Circle's assertions. One of them is the way of the Shapeshifter. It is an ancient magic now only practiced by a few mages in the hidden corners of Thedas. The infamous witches of the Korkari Wilds are said to be shapeshifters, and some even claim their matriarch Flemeth can turn into a mighty dragon. More typical shapeshifters, if there can even be said to be such a thing, can transform themselves into creatures like wolves, bears, and even giant spiders. As a novice, you learn the shapeshifter spell, Small Animal Form. While you've taken on a creature's form with a shapeshifter spell, the following general rules apply. You cannot speak or cast spells. Spells you cast before the transformation remain in effect as normal, and you can pay mana when required to keep them going. You retain your cunning and magic abilities and your health, but the rest of your stats are determined by the shapeshifter spell you use. You learn the shapeshifter spell, Large Animal Form, and then as a master, you learn the shapeshifter spell, Vicious Beast Form. That's pretty cool. Spirit Healer. While demons are the most notorious denizens of the Fade, other spirits reside there as well. These spirits are more benevolent and do not have the driving desires that make demons so evil. Spirit healers are those rare mages who learn to communicate and summon such spirits. There is danger in this path, as there always is when the Fade is involved. Sometimes demons pretend to be kindly spirits and the spirit healer pays a dreadful price. When the summoning is successful, however, a spirit healer is capable of healing feats beyond the bounds of normal magic. This is why spirit healers believe the risk is worth it. As a novice, you have learned to summon spirits. You learn the Spirit Healer spell, Group Heal, to cast it and other Spirit Healer spells. That is, spells requiring you to have a Spirit Healer specialization. You must first enter Summoning Mode. This requires an activate action and a successful target number 14 magic spirit test. If you fail and roll triples, you must roll on the magical mishaps table. If successful, you attract a suitable spirit and can cast spirit healer spells for as long as you stay in this mode. You can end the mode with another activate action, which releases the spirit back to whence it came. As a journeyman, you learn the spirit healer spell Revival. As a master, you learn the spirit healer spell Life Ward. Rogue specializations. Assassins are masters of the art of death. They train to kill using weapons, poisons, and their wits. The most famous assassins are the Antivan Crows. They will kill anyone for the right price, and because that, they hold the real political power in their homeland. There are always those willing to kill for money, so assassins can be found all over Thedas. As a novice, you can assess a nearby opponent and spot weaknesses that can be exploited in combat. With an activate action, you can mark for death a visible target within 10 yards of you. All ranged and melee attacks against a target marked for death receive a +1 damage bonus. The mark lasts until the end of the encounter. The target is slain, or you pick a new target with another activate action. You can't have active marks on multiple targets at the same time. A character cannot be marked for death more than once in the same encounter. As a journeyman, your attacks are sudden, precise, and deadly. When you use the rogue's dirty fighting power, your opponent's constitution stamina tests are target number 17 instead of target number 15. Additionally, once per encounter, you can use the dirty fighting power as a free action. As a master, you know how to exploit your target's weaknesses. When the backstab an opponent you have marked for death, you inflict an extra 1d6 damage. Oh my god, my nose is getting stuffy. Help me. Help me. Bard. Bards may seem like simple minstrels and troubadours, but they are much more. A peculiar feature of Orlesian politics, bards act as spies, saboteurs, and sometimes killers, though they usually refer to themselves as assassins. Intrigue is a way of life in Orlais, so bards are common there, but less so in other nations. Worldly people of all nations look twice at any traveling minstrel, which makes life for honest members of the trade more difficult. It is said that King Merrick of Ferelden fell in love with an Orlesian bard with tragic results. As a novice, you can sing a song of valor. Allies within 12 feet of you gain a +1 bonus on attack rolls as long as the song is maintained. As a journeyman, you can sing a song of friendship. It can be used in combat encounters like any other song, but it's more appropriate for role-playing encounters. You perform a song for those assembled that affirms the power of camaraderie and harmony. Until the end of role-playing encounter, or for as long as it's maintained during a combat encounter, you and your allies get a +1 bonus to etiquette, investigation, persuasion, and seduction tests. As a master, you can sing a song of captivation. Once per round while singing the song, you can attempt to captivate one opponent within 16 yards. This is an opposed test of your performance versus the target's self-discipline. If you win, the target can take no actions on their next turn. Duelist. Heavily armed and armored warriors may dominate the battlefield, but duelists rule the streets and alleys of the cities like Denerim and Val Royeaux. In such conditions, the quick blades and wits of duelists count for more than raw strength. They eschew cumbersome shields and fight with a weapon in each hand instead. They have even developed a weapon set customized for their style of fighting. The classic duelist fights with a rapier and either a main gaucher. Thank you, Jenga. Sinus Solus. It's because I've been talking so much. My body's like, what are you doing? Or a spiked buckler in their offhand. Some pride themselves on fighting with more unusual weapon combinations. Note that while duelists have their own weapons groups revolving around their specialized weapons, light blades and other dexterity-based melee weapons can be used by duelists with this specialization. Note that in formal duels, using unconventional weapons may be forbidden or seen as dishonorable. As a novice, you learn the dueling weapon group, a weapon group unique to duelists. When fighting in the dual weapon style and using a melee weapon that uses dexterity, you gain both +1 on your attack rolls and +1 on defense versus melee attacks. As a journeyman, your precise attacks hit opponents where it hurts. While fighting in the dual weapon style, you inflict +1 damage with melee attacks. As a master, your pinpoint accuracy can find the gaps in your opponent's armor. When you perform the pierce armor stunt, your damage is penetrating. Wink. The stunt normally halves your opponent's armor, but penetrating damage allows you to ignore it altogether. Seems like gosh. Gosh! Like how Goofy pronounces gorsh. Garsh? Now I'm just gonna think of Goofy. Is Goofy French? Legionnaire Scout. The Dwarven Legion of the Dead are famed for their courage, and none more so than the Legion Scouts. Traveling ahead of the rest of their group or operating alone in the deep roads on special missions, Legionnaire Scouts must be careful and utterly fearless. They learn to suffer incredible hardships without the slightest complaint and hone their resolve into an armor that can protect them from their pain, despair, and strife. As a novice, you gain a +2 to any test to resist pain, hunger, fear, or despair. As a journeyman, the combat stunts Mighty Blow and a Lethal Blow cost an extra stunt point when used against the Legionnaire Scout. As a master, you can shrug off the worst damage through force of will alone. Gain a bonus to your armor rating equal to half your willpower. This bonus stacks with other armor and is present even if no other armor is worn. That's pretty dope. Marksman. Marksmen are crack shots who can take down enemies at a distance. Other than their extraordinary skill with missile weapons, most marksmen have little in common. A marksman might be a Dalish archer, a Ferelden scout, a chastened raider, or an Antivan street tough. Some are soldiers, other mercenaries for hire, and other wanderers trying to win a prize money in shooting competitions. While marksmen are deadly with any ranged weapon, each has a favorite type and often signature example that they have customized to their liking. To steal such a weapon is to ask for terrible retribution. As a novice, your missile attacks are so powerful they can fling opponents back and knock them off their feet. You can perform the knock prone stunt for 1 stunt point instead of the usual 2 when making ranged attacks. Additionally, you may push the target straight back 2 yards before applying the knockdown. As a journeyman, you can unleash a storm of missiles on your opponents. You can perform the volley stunt for 5 stunt points. This allows you to make 2 more ranged attacks at the same target or at others in sight and within 10 yards. You must have a loaded missile weapon to make a ranged attack, so use of up to 2 rapid reload stunts may be required to use volley. If your roll doubles on either of these attack rolls, you do not generate any additional stunt points. As a master, you can find the vulnerable spot on any opponent. When you perform the pierce armor stunt with a ranged attack, your damage is penetrating. Wink. Ranger. Oh, I think I might want to do Ranger. Hazy. Hazy's barking. There are songs and stories of noble-spirited heroes who protect the sanctity of nature from the encroachment of corrupt civilization. Rangers are not those heroes. Rather, they are skilled scouts who use their knowledge of nature for their own benefit. They can lure animals, sometimes of frightening size, to fight for them. If the animal dies in battle, that is not the ranger's concern as long as they fulfill their role in the fight. The Dalish calls such rangers cruel. The rangers say they are just being practical. Rangers make excellent guides and are often hired as such. I like that. As a novice, you can lure nearby animals to your close location and make them fight for you. Start by making an animal handling test, which takes 2d6 minutes. The base target number is 13, but the GM may adjust it based on the area you're in and the orneriness of the local animals. For each degree of success, you reduce the time the test takes by 1 minute. If the test is successful, you attract an animal and can control it during the next combat encounter. When that's over and after half an hour has elapsed, the animal wanders away. As a novice, you can lure animals like dogs, wolves, and birds of prey. The GM has final say over what sorts of animals you can lure with this talent. As a journeyman, your time in the wild has honed your ambuscade skills. I'm assuming that means ambush. When you attack an opponent who has been surprised, you inflict +2 damage. As a master, you can now lure larger animals like black bears, brontos, hala, and even large spiders. The base target number remains 13 for animal handling tests, though. Individual animals of this size may be more ornery. So noisy. Shadow. Shadows are rogues who are masters of stealth. While all rogues are stealthy to some degree, shadows excel in the arts of concealment and deception like no others. They can hide themselves nearly anywhere, and almost seem to be able to bend the darkness around them. They can fool opponents into attacking empty air while they position themselves for a lethal attack. While there are stories of a shadow guild and secret magic that fuels such powers, there is nothing to substantiate such claims. Shadows can have simply perfected their techniques through training and practice. As a novice, you are a master of stealth. With an activate action, you can enter shadow mode and gain the following benefits. You gain a +1 to stealth and legerdemain tests. Opponents also find it difficult to land telling blows against you. They suffer a -1 penalty on damage rolls when making melee or ranged attacks against you. You can leave shadow mode with a free action. As a journeyman, you can confuse and misdirect opponents so they attack imaginary enemies. While in shadow mode, you can perform the decoy combat stunt for 2 stunt points. Make a stealth test and note the test result. Until your next turn, anyone attempting to target you with a ranged or melee attack must beat your test result with a seeing test. Those who fail still make the attack, thus using an action, but miss automatically. As a master, you can know how to choose the perfect moment to strike. When you backstab an opponent in shadow mode, add your cunning to your damage. Those are pretty cool. I really like Ranger. I don't know that I'm going to be high enough level in the Dragon Age game, but I think I'm going to play it sort of like I would be a ranger. Warrior specializations. Berserker. Berserkers rose first amongst the dwarfs in the warrior caste. They learned to tap into their rage on the battlefield and use it to perform feats of incredible valor. The Avar learned from the dwarves, and from there the berserker tradition spread to all human nations. The Ash Warriors are the most famous of the human berserkers. They are mercenaries of a sort, but they do not fight for money. Rather, they lend their considerable might to those whose cause they find the most just. They have fought for many kings of Ferelden, but they maintain a stubborn independence. As a novice, you can drive yourself into a killing frenzy. First, you must use the activate action to enter the berserk mode. You receive a +2 bonus to courage and willpower and morale tests while in this mode. You also receive a +1 bonus to your damage rolls in melee combat. However, you suffer a -1 penalty to defense and to perception tests while in berserk. You return to normal at the end of the encounter, or if you force yourself out of the mode with another activate action. As a journeyman, your rage becomes more potent. While berserk, you gain the same bonuses and penalties as is described in the novice entry, but your bonus damage in melee combat increases to +3. Master, your fury is unstoppable. When berserk, you can perform the lethal blow stunt for 4 stunt points instead of the usual 5. Champion, we have a barbarian class back home. Back home, berserker fighter. God, I love like a barbarian berserker rage class. Champion, there are many tough warriors in Thedas, but those can truly inspire their allies and intimidate their enemies are few. Champions do not just fight. They are a palpable presence on the battlefield. Comrades in arms look to them for strength and courage in the chaos of battle. Foes hesitate and lose heart when facing them. Champions are not unique to any one army or organization. They can be found in all parts of Thedas, and smart commanders recruit as many as possible to their forces when battle approaches. As a novice, your battle roar intimidates your opponents. When you take the charge action, you can shout a war cry that gives all enemies within 8 yards of your charge's final position a -1 on attack rolls on their next turn. As a journeyman, you can lead your allies in an inspired defense. First, you must use the activate action to enter rally mode. Your allies within 8 yards if you gain a +1 defense and a +1 on morale test while this mode is active. You can end rally with another activate action. As a master, your presence on the battlefield cannot be ignored. When in rally mode, your journeyman effects affect allies within 12 yards of you. They also receive a +1 bonus on courage tests and inflict +1 damage with melee attacks. Chevalier. Chevaliers are the elite knights of the Orlesian Empire. They are a powerful force both militarily and socially. An Orlesian commoner can be executed on the word of a chevalier, a practice that is prone to abuse but rarely challenged. Scions of noble families dominate the chevaliers, and their status is such that the order attracts many nobles without land or inheritance. In Orlais, chevaliers are used to getting their way. When they travel to other nations, the reception is frostier. Their reputation precedes them. None would deny that they are powerful warriors and unrivaled on horseback, however. As a novice, you learn the Lance's weapon group. You can also learn to unnerve your enemies with well-chosen insults. You can perform the taunt stunt. Oh god, that was really New York. The taunt stunt. Taunt. Oh, what? You perform a stunt for one stunt point instead of the usual 2. You may substitute etiquette for deception when making the stunts opposed test at your option. This represents the Orlesian art of being polite and insulting at the same time. As a journeyman, your lance hits with the strength of a golem. When making a mounted charge, you can add 1d6 to your damage if you are wielding a weapon from the lance's group. If wielding another melee weapon, you inflict +1 damage instead. As a master, you get the most from your steed. While mounted, you can run a minor action and add +1 to your defense when you do. Guardian. Many warriors fight for personal glory. Not so the Guardian. They are trained to consider not just their position on the battlefield, but that of their allies. They can assess who needs protection and when, and their timely intervention often prevents situations from going out of control. Since shielding others is their first priority, a Guardian often leaves themselves to make sure they block an attack on their ally. Those of long service have many scars as badges of their sacrifice. Guardians naturally make excellent bodyguards and are often employed as such. Mages, often vulnerable in hand-to-hand combat, particularly value guardians. As a novice, you can protect an ally with the tactical use of your shield and body. Choose an ally and enter Guardian mode with an active action. When this ally is adjacent to you, they gain a +2 to their armor rating. However, each time your ally takes damage, you take 2 points of penetrating damage. You can choose to switch your protection to a different ally with a free action. You can leave Guardian mode with a free action. As a journeyman, once you plant yourself, you cannot be moved. While in Guardian mode, the skirmish and knock-prone stunts have no effect on you. As a master, those who attack your charge suffer the consequences. When you are in Guardian mode and an opponent successfully hits or damages your protected ally, you can immediately attack that opponent, moving up to 2 yards to get adjacent if necessary. As a free action, generally stunt points as usual. You may only do this once per round. After the attack, the normal initiative order returns. This retaliation does not count as your turn. Reaver. Reavers have learned to channel blood magic internally, making them terrifying and deadly warriors. To become a Reaver, one must take part in an arcane ritual where the would-be Reaver drinks the blood of a dragon or similar beast such as a wyvern. The ritual grants the power to draw strength from pain and death. The nature of the Reavers means that few truly heroic individuals seek to join their ranks, though desperate times sometimes push someone to take up the role of a Reaver to fight some dark power. Due to its connections to blood magic, becoming a Reaver incurs the risk of being corrupted by demonic forces. Which is interesting because what we know about, like, demonic possession and corruption in Dragon Age is it should only be able to affect mages, but we now know that it's possible that that's not true. It's just mages are more susceptible. As a novice, you can draw enemies' life force into you through an attack, healing you even as they weaken. Once per encounter, take a minor action to activate this ability for a number of consecutive turns. Hey, thank you so much, Jenga. 8 months. Big preach. Once per encounter, take a minor action to activate this ability. For a number of consecutive turns equal to your willpower, you gain health equal to the amount of damage the target suffers on a successful attack, or your opponent's constitution ability rating, whichever is less. As a journeyman, you are able to channel your own rage and pain into an aura that injures and weakens enemies around you. You can create an aura of pain. Damn. Aura of pain. With an activate action. While it's active once per turn, you may elect to take 1d6 penetrating damage to inflict 1d6 plus willpower penetrating damage on all enemies within 6 yards of you. Maintaining this ability is a free action. Master. The death of your foes lends speed to your step and swiftness to your reflexes. Immediately after you kill a foe in combat, you can make another attack against a different foe in range as a free action. If no foe is in range, you may instead perform a free move action to put you in range of a new target. If you kill your foe with a free attack, you do not get another free attack or move. Spirit Warrior. I think these are the last 2. Spirit Warrior. Spirit Warriors, like Spirit Healers, understand that not all denizens of the Fade are malevolent. They make deals with spirits of the Fade, gaining access to special powers in exchange for giving the spirits a personal view of the physical world. Spirit Warriors can cloak themselves in a magical energy and even use it to blast enemies. Though they are not mages, this distinction is lost on most. Templars tend to treat Spirit Warriors as apostates since their displays of power certainly look like magic, and they'd rather err the side of caution. As a novice, you wreath yourself in a mystical energy. With an activate action, you can enter Spirit Warrior mode. This grants you a +1 bonus to defense and a +1 bonus to magic tests to resist spells and other magical attacks. You can end Spirit Warrior mode with a free action. As a journeyman, you can channel energy from the Fade into your weapons. While in Spirit Warrior mode, your melee and ranged attacks count as magical. This allows them to inflict full damage to incorporeal creatures like shades. They also inflict bonus damage equal to your willpower on demons and other creatures of the Fade. As a master, you can overload your body with the power of the Fade and then release it violently. While in Spirit Warrior mode, you can perform the Fade Burst stunt for 4 stunt points. A coruscating wave of energy causes 1d6 penetrating damage to all enemies within 4 yards of you. Demons and other creatures of the Fade take 1d6 plus your willpower penetrating damage instead. Templars. The Templars are a militant arm of the Chantry. Their primary functions are to watch over the Circle of Magi and hunt down apostates and Maleficarum. For more information about Templars, see Chapter 5, Magic. As noted, Templars are given small amounts of lyrium to awaken and maintain their special powers. Hard and fast rules for this are not provided, as tracking such things is tedious. The Templars' use of lyrium makes excellent story fodder, however. As a novice, you have learned mental techniques that help you resist magic. You gain a +2 bonus on tests to resist effects of spells and other magical attacks. If you have this power already, from the dwarf backgrounds in this book, for example, you must still take this degree of talent, but its effect is to increase your existing bonus by +1. As a journeyman, your blows can drain mages of their mana. When you do damage to a mage or any creature that uses mana with a melee attack, your target loses 1d6 plus your magic mana points in addition to taking normal damage. That's rough. That's real rough. I'm not planning on playing a mage. But if I was, I would not want to go up against a Templar. That's a lot of mana points. As a master, you can cleanse an area of ongoing magic. This is a major action, and the concentration required is such that you suffer a -2 penalty to defense until the beginning of your next turn. All ongoing spells within 6 yards of you, whether cast by friends or foes, end immediately. Spells that were only partially cast also cancelled, and actions previously spent on casting them are wasted. Oof. Oof. That's rough. Oh, there is a section for Grey Wardens. It is possible for any player character to become a Grey Warden. There are no strict prerequisites for this, and it is not tied to class or level. The only qualification is that a Grey Warden thinks that the candidate has what it takes. Strength of will and a strong sense of duty are common attributes, but sometimes the most unlikely candidates end up making the best Grey Wardens. Duncan, who eventually became the leader of the Grey Wardens in Ferelden, was not but a street thief in Orlais when he was recruited into the Order. I like how they're like, someone who's got a strength of will and a strong sense of duty. Meanwhile, they were just like taking fucking criminals and like, hey, hope you make it through the joining. Those chosen go through a period of training. This can be as long or as short as the warden trainer desires. It is uncommon for characters of less than level 6 to be chosen for the joining. The perilous and enigmatic ritual that turns a recruit into a full-fledged Grey Warden. It is an elite order, and normally only those who have proved themselves are given the chance to join its ranks. I don't think that's true. I feel like they've retconned all that in recent years. If you become a Grey Warden, it will be a major event in the game. You will play through your training period and joining. If you make it and become a Grey Warden, you gain the following. Take an ability advancement in the ability of your choice. You become a novice in a new talent or gain a degree in a talent you already have. You gain a resistance to the taint. Wink. You can't be turned into a ghoul by darkspawn blood. You have the right of conscription, and so can recruit others into the Grey Wardens. In theory, this can be anyone, but political realities usually cause wardens to tread carefully. You can detect darkspawn to a number of yards away equal to 5 times your level. You make a detect darkspawn test to find out more information, such as their rough numbers or even their types. There is more to being a Grey Warden than this, but the rest you will find out playing in your campaign. And that's cool. I'm glad that they included that. And now we kind of went over all of the equipment stuff last time. I think that's kind of it. I feel like we've gone through a lot of this in the last couple of weeks. Besides, obviously, all of like the lore stuff, which I'm not going to sit here and read out to you guys. That's a little boring. Yeah, I think we're done. I think we've learned how to play the Dragon Age TTRPG, at least as players. I think that I probably will read a little bit more in terms of like enemies and stuff and kind of go in. Yeah, it's a lot of info. I mean, look at like this is just the table of contents. Like that's crazy. They do give a lot of info regarding like the actual lore of the world as well, which is nice. I think also the kind of nice thing about, oh my god, my arms hurt so bad, guys. Oh, it was arm day yesterday. Fuck. The nice thing about having, God, I wish my bit rate would stop fucking dropping. Stop it. Go back up, you tepid bitch. Hello. Come on, go back to green. I know you can do it. I think when Joel's playing Magic that I'm not going to have to stream. I'm going to have to pick a different time to stream because I think that that's affecting my bitrate, to be honest. I'm just waiting to see if my bitrate goes back up. So loud. Come on, little guy. Anyway, I think that the nice thing about the nice thing about kind of playing in a world that is pretty well established in lore is you don't have to think up things. Almost laughter is hurting your bitrate. No joy allowed. Be silence, wench. I think that's the good thing about having like all of this lore information, even like in this book, and then like you could just go online and find some more information. I think that's like really nice, and it takes a lot of work out of campaign prep, at least for me, because like you guys know I'm crazy and I need to write everything down. So it takes a lot of work out of campaign prep when you already have all of the lore and world building pretty well established, and it leaves you a lot more time to craft like plot points and to work on stories for your characters, for your players in particular, which is really nice that you're able to have that sort of focus. And that's why it is nice, like for like D&D, where you have the Forgotten Realms, or you have Greyhawk, which are such established campaign settings, as well as, you know, you have like the cyberpunk universe. You've even got like Vampire the Masquerade is very established lore. Yeah, I'm pretty on top of the lore. I would say I'm like, you know, I know a thing or two. I mean, that's also why like I kind of want to run a Dragon Age game within the new year. Is I love the lore so much for Dragon Age. Even like the homebrew world for All We've Lost was heavily inspired by the Dragon Age lore. So yeah, I definitely want to run a Dragon Age game in the new year. I don't know whether it'll be super long, if it'll be only like a one shot, a 4-parter, or if it'll be a little bit of a longer series. Not super long. I'm not planning on running any long campaigns anytime. And I definitely want people, when I do run it, I want people who are interested in the lore. I want people who are Dragon Age fans to come and play. Just because I think that they'll have much more of an easier time of interacting in the world. And I want people who actively want to engage in the world and who know the lore, and I won't have to stop every like 5 minutes to explain certain things that would just kind of be commonplace knowledge for people who are already fans of Dragon Age. But yeah, I definitely want to be dropping. Love that. Up. Yeah, my bitrate keeps dropping, and my stream just dropped, so I think we're gonna call it here, guys. Sorry that my bitrate's being useless right now. Yeah, I'm back. That was really annoying. We're gonna call it here though, because it doesn't look like it's getting better, and I do think that it has to do with Joel is also streaming, so I'm gonna have to work around when he decides to play Magic. Fuck you, Comcast. Anyway, goodbye, guys.